Whatever. Let's talk a bit about Team Liquid then. Now, obviously, Mose has to be careful here.
Yes, yeah.
But listen, if people are going to call you a ball fraud and they're going to say that all Yanko did was just, make stories as to why Nico wasn't fucking up and, you're just now going to, well, then at least do your fucking job, make up the excuses. Because the weird thing about this one, Moses, is people saw my tweet. Y'all fucking got me. I don't know how. Because listen, I promised myself after that end of 2019, I'm never fucking betting on these motherfuckers again. You're never going to catch me again. It ain't going to happen. There's too many times. Because you have to understand, I really thought, fuck the major, they're going to win all the tournaments afterwards. It's like, I'd lose every single time to Astralis. Right, great, that's good. So, I can't lie. It's not that I totally believed in Team Liquid, although certainly the Na'Vi game looked great. It's that I also did just think, I just don't believe in the CIS teams as much. That was the angle I was sort of taking, but classic Team Liquid let down. 2-0, of course, quite convincingly as well.
I wasn't
even that good a game, I know.
I was this close to making a tweet right before those games. I was going to tweet that a CIS team will not be lifting the trophy.
Oh, Jesus.
And I was like, shouldn't do that.
Dude, that would have haunted you. That tweet would have been images that precede an unfortunate event.
That
would have haunted you for so long. Yeah, I know.
So, I avoided that catastrophe at least.
What do you think of... come on, give us some thoughts on the team. Where they at? It's an upward trend, clearly, right?
Yeah. I mean, certainly this Katowice was good for us in a way, and also, I mean, obviously really disappointed in how it ended against VP, because you're right, that wasn't a good game out of us, and it wasn't a good game to watch. But the nice thing was, since everyone was focused on how good Yekindar is, no one was really trashing on Liquid too much. They were just talking about how good VP looked. So that was nice. Yeah, there we go.
Exactly.
But we're in an okay place. I think there's still a lot of, as you can see, a little bit of inconsistency, in how we can look against a Na'Vi team, and then how we can look against Virtus Pro, a week later, and still trying to iron out that inconsistency. There's still a lot of moving parts. Obviously, just switching over to Fallen as the in-game leader. So, I mean, it's a huge amount of getting Fallen up to speed, not only on the tactics that we're running, but also kind of, the different philosophy on the map. So I think John and Jake have done a great job working with Fallen, catching them up to speed on certain things and how they like to play the maps and how they kind of look at the maps and, how they look at, the openings, the end games, the mid rounds, what are the important factors of when they're calling on the map that we, what are the set goals that we have to accomplish to get to certain situations. And then also, bringing Fallen up to speed too on kind of individual game on where the Opper can rotate, what the options are for the Opper, where does he go for an opening pick and where can he go after that. So we've been getting him up to speed on that and kind of help him improve there and trying some new things out with that. So, I mean, the team's working together really, really well at the moment. It's just a matter of, still, the nice thing was when we started Katowice, we won these play-ons. When we beat FaZe, it was a good surge of confidence, which I think led us into beating Vitality, which gave a good surge of confidence, which leads into beating Na'Vi later on. We beat OG in there somewhere as well. So I think, a lot of the confidence kind of got lifted up, which kept allowing us to have better and better games. And then the inconsistency came in, which was a bit rough. But we're in a good place. It's just a matter of making sure that we can deliver the same performance game in, game out, and at the moment we're not quite there yet.
Moses, I've got one quick question for you, mate. And this is entirely up to your discretion to answer or not. When VP beat Astralis, did the players get really happy in Team Liquid?
No.
That's good then, okay. Because that would have been also an ultimate cursed thing, yay, we'd have to play Astralis, yeah, and then VP just bangs that.
Yeah, I think there were. I mean, I think on some level it would have. We knew VP was going to be a really tough game. Kind of our conversation leading into that match was, if you just look at the names, this would obviously be the matchup.
Sure.
If someone told us before the event, listen, you're going to make it to the semifinals, and to get to the grand finals, you won't have to play Device, you won't have to play Simple, you won't have to play Astralis or Na'Vi. That'll be your path to the finals. I think any team in the world would have taken that hands down without any complaints. But we also know, from practicing against these teams, these CIS teams like Gambit and Spirit and Virtus Pro, we knew stylistically, in some ways, it was going to be a lot more difficult because they are a bit more of the unknown. They are a way more unique play style that we're not as familiar with. So in some cases there was good, but in some cases there was some obviously some tough things that we'd have to overcome. But nobody was happy. Nobody was like, oh, good, we've got an easy semifinal. So yeah, we had at that point we'd had a healthy respect for VP. VP. And I think the more we prepped into them, we just had more and more respect for how they were kind of doing things and how they were playing. So we didn't underestimate them in any way. Just a really, really poorly played game on our part, to be quite frank. And that was the conversation afterwards. We still have this tendency in the team, and it's a tendency that Team Liquid's had since their inception, where there are just games, and Pimp, you can obviously relate to this too, having spent some time within the roster. There are games where you feel like you're playing the opponent and you're playing yourselves at the same exact time, and we still struggle to get over that. And that VP semifinal was a game that we played VP and we played against ourselves. The Na'Vi game was a game where we played against Na'Vi, and that was it. And we were able to overcome that. And unfortunately, as it's been an issue for a number of years, we weren't able to beat ourselves well enough to be able to actually fight VP on a level playing ground. And we got embarrassed. So yeah, that's kind of the problems that we need to work on going forward in our next boot camp is eliminate the fact that we have to play two teams in some of these matches.
What do you think then, Pim?
I think that given the certain changes, Fallen taking over the in-game leading role, I was wrongfully assuming that was part of the plan all the time, right?
Yes,
that
same.
That there was going to be a transition period. First and foremost, good call. You should have done that from the beginning.
Well, yeah. Well, I can speak to that too, because I know there's been a lot of comments about that. I know when we brought Fallen into the team, we wanted to keep Stewie as the in-game leader. One, to kind of make it so we didn't want Fallen to have to lead in the brand new team while learning the tactics and the strategies and while going over everything. More than anything, I think Jake reads the game incredibly well. Like, Jake is one of those players, I think, that when if you could have a glimpse into what he's calling and how he's reading as he's in-game leading, it's astounding how accurate he is of where the team is going to be positioned and how they're rotating and how they're moving. And I really liked that kind of asset of his in-game leading. There were other parts of his in-game leadership that I wanted to improve upon, and there's other factors to being an in-game leader that he needs to get better on. And the idea was to have Fallen come in and be a safety net and be a little bit of support to help kind of teach him and navigate some of the tougher parts of IGLing. But it was also one of the things that made Fallen such an intriguing pickup to us, was that if we did encounter something, if we did get into a situation that we didn't like and we wanted to bail out, he provides like a really easy plan B to just let him be the in-game leader. So he allowed us a lot of flexibility in that sense. So yeah, obviously when you get banged out by FaZe and the player that you just cut twice in one weekend, it kind of is a come to Jesus moment. You kind of look at things a little bit closer. So yeah, we decided to make the switch, but it was always the plan to keep Jake in that role, and then have the ability to go away from it if we needed to. And we just deemed we needed to at that point.
I'm just glad it's part of the pickup reason, right? Because I look isolated on Fallen, if it wasn't planned to integrate him somehow into the in-game looting roles, or at least, using that experience he had in that role, then it wouldn't make sense for my money, at least to pick him up in the first place. So that makes sense the way you're describing it now. Of course, he offers a lot outside of that. Now, when I look at Liquid play right now, completely objectively, I think you're trajecting upwards, of course. It's looking better. But also come to think that when Fallen is the in-game leader, right, what made him so good in MIBR, what made MIBR so good back in the days, 3, 4, 5 years ago, was the mid-round calling, was the understanding the players in between that Fallen could lead the charge, right? It was the cold zeros, in a 3 versus 3. When you're playing against MIBR, you just knew that you're going to lose the round because Fallen was alive, Cold Zero was alive, and the way they played off each other and the way that Cold Zero and Fallen could lead those guys in threes was so unique and so well played. That's something that takes, I would say, weeks and months of practice, and synergy to be built up. So I don't think Fallen as an in-game leader right now, outside of course, the aspect that he's very experienced, and Jason can again attach to this if I'm missing some nuances here, but Fallen is a great in-game leader, right? But where Fallen comes into to play the best is when he can mid-round call deep into the rounds, when he has synergy between all the players, where all players know how it is to play with each other and play their opponents sort of. So I don't see Liquid peaking right now. I don't see them peaking next month. I see them peaking if they keep this lineup, if they keep the upward trajectory, and if Fallen can get into place again, being the player that he were, maybe not as good, but just somewhat decent, you can get Jake back to being, I was even looking over statistics, right? In 2017, 2018, he was at a 1.15 rating for the year, and the last couple of years, it's been below 1. There's a big drop-off right there in individual skill. If you can just get those two players back to a somewhat normal level of individual impact, dare I say it, on the server, I think Liquid have a lot of potential with Fallen on their lineup, but I'm not seeing it happening within the next week or the next couple of months. It takes time to build up that synergy where you get the best out of Fallen.
Also, let's be real. They did beat fucking Vitality and Na'Vi in best of three. Like, that would win you a tournament normally. Like, that's no joke, you know? So I think, like, yeah, there was the whole thing at Blast, but, like, that Blast thing was like some fucking movie where, like, Twists just was like, I must get revenge. Like, I didn't even know what the fuck that tournament was. Like, I'd put that one out of my mind. That one doesn't even count. That wasn't even a real team, was it? It didn't have Carrigan in the lineup yet. So, like, I don't take that too seriously. I think generally TL's on the up and up, mate.
Also, even, I mean, this isn't to knock on FaZe at all, but even like the performance out of Olaf in those first 2 games, I was like, what the fuck? I was like, why has he just come out of the grave just to bang us out?
Just to blue balls everyone right at the end of his career. Yeah, I know. Ridiculous, isn't it? I know. That was just some like Twilight Zone shit, that match, mate. I wouldn't even consider those like real games. Fuck that. Forget that shit. Forget it. Move on.